right. I think we're going to get started a few minutes after 10 o'clock, so we're going to get started with this morning's presentation. I want to welcome everyone to Coffee with the Community, a monthly opportunity for us to connect and provide not only our audience that join us live, but also folks that tune in on our district YouTube channel, on our other outlets through social media. Provides them a great opportunity to tune in from home, and I know we get a lot of hits on those outlets as well. So appreciate Niles Media Group for their help in being here to record this morning. Before I turn this over to our featured presenter, I just want to remind everyone we have a great topic coming up in November, as we will be joined by Kendra Calloway with the Liberty Alliance for Youth. Kendra will bring in with her some great information, and hope everyone can join us for that. So that's coming up in November, and then we'll have a digital transformation update to wrap up this fast-moving semester. December 17th will be our final Coffee with the Community for semester 1, and then we'll move into the new year. So at this time, I'm going to introduce our new Safety and Security Director. His name is Gary Majors. Gary started in July, brings with him, and he will introduce himself in just a moment, but brings with him a ton of experience, a ton of knowledge, and we have really enjoyed having him in the district these past few months and look forward to the great things ahead. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Safety and Security, Mr. Gary Majors.
Thank you. You ever notice when a young person tells you you have a ton of experience, it's a nice way of saying you're old? I get it, all right? My name is Gary Majors, and Dallas asked me to come do this, and basically just kind of wanted me to introduce myself to you so you can kind of get to know me a little bit better and talk just a little bit about our security department. I have about 10 or 12 little slides that we'll zip through here in rapid speed, and any questions that you have, that would be great. I'm a lifelong resident of the Northland, born and raised. I have a large family that lives here, very close by. I have a ton of kids who all live really close, and even more grandkids, which makes it even worthwhile. I come to the district by way of the police department primarily. I spent 28 years on the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, retired with the rank of major. Therefore, I was Major Majors. Something people enjoy calling me, and I actually enjoy hearing it, so it doesn't matter to me. Had a great career with the police department. They have a policy where after 25 or 30 years, they make you leave. And so I went off and worked for the city of Kansas City for 5 years in the Regulated Industries Division, which basically meant we permitted businesses that needed to be permitted. So taxi cabs, liquor establishments, scrap yards, that kind of stuff. Left there and went to work for the Kansas City Public Schools, where I was the Director of Operations, which I did that for about 2.5 years. And one day, out of the blue, somebody called me and said, I was just looking on a website and found a job I think is ideal for you. And I read it and thought, they're right. And then more importantly, they thought I was right with that. And so they hired me back in July at the end of this year, July 26th, I believe. I feel like I hit the ground running because I've been really busy since I've been here, and we've accomplished a great deal and hope to accomplish a great deal more. One of the things I was tasked with was just sort of taking an outsider's view and perspective of what's going on, and then as you'll hear here in a little bit, sometime after the first of the year, I hope to present a pretty detailed report of where we are, where I would like us to go, and some options for us to get there, although we have done quite a bit in the meantime as we move forward. So with that, I'll move through these slides and kind of give you a glimpse of what we're up to here. Just some quick facts. It is a full-time director's position. This is something new to the district. Before, it was a 0.3 employee, if you will, that kind of coordinated and making sure people were scheduled to come in and work. We work with about 52 part-time law enforcement. These are full-time Liberty police officers, Missouri Highway Patrol officers. Most recently, we've even used a couple of Clay County deputy sheriffs, and they're our security force, so to speak, that we bring in to work in our schools and on our property. We also have an agreement with the Liberty Police Department where we have 3 full-time SROs, or school resource officers. They primarily focus on the high schools and the middle schools, but they are available to the elementary schools when needed and are a great resource that we have. And we provide security services district-wide, which is 19 educational facilities, 3 administrative facilities, and pretty much all the sporting events. I think I've got somebody working a haunted house. If anybody wants to go to a haunted house over at the Heritage Middle School this weekend, I was told they'll chase you around with a chainsaw if you go over there, so be careful what you ask for. You know what? I worked on the police department for a lot of years. When I retired, I was the major of an inner-city patrol division over at Linwood and Troost, and I was one of my proudest accomplishments on the police department was when the rest of the city was seeing double-digit crime increases. My division saw a 30% decrease in crime, and people kept asking me, how are you able to do this? And this is what I would tell them. And that is success of any law enforcement agency or security force greatly hinges on the degree in which meaningful partnerships are developed with those with whom they serve. There's a couple key words there. The biggest is meaningful partnerships. I'm in a partnership right now with my 19-year-old son with a car. It's not too meaningful to me. It's just not. I'm in it, don't want to be in it, don't know how I get out of it, but it's not a great situation. So it has to be a meaningful partnership, and mostly in a meaningful partnership, it's a two-way street. You get something, I get something, we're both happy, and that's what we're striving for. And the last key word, or the second key word here, is serve. We're here to serve you. I like to tell people from time to time, you know, sometimes you're the dog, and sometimes you're the tail. So sometimes you get to wag other people, and sometimes people get to wag you. And usually in this instance, you know, sometimes security people have a habit on occasion of coming in and telling you how you're going to do things. And that's not the way we operate. We're here as a support service to the school district and to the community. That's what I like to do. So what are some of our partnerships and how do they work? Well, we have partnerships with faculty and staff. We have partnerships, obviously, with the students, with the parents, and with the community. With the faculty and staff, our biggest thing we do is we solicit their input. They're the key resources. When you talk, you can come up with the ideal security plan for a building until you throw Heritage Middle School into it. Was built who knows when, and just added and added and added on, and you just can't take a cookie cutter security plan and stick in there. I could go in there and look and give them a really good guess on what they need, but the people that live there every day and work there every day, they're the ones that can tell you this isn't going to work or we need this, and listening to that, seeking that input, working together as a team to come up with a solution. We do the same thing with security equipment needs. What works really well in one building doesn't necessarily work well in another, or with the student population that we have. So we listen to those needs to get to that. And we listen to their training needs. I had a phone call earlier this week where somebody said, we're supposed to do an earthquake drill, but we're not quite sure what we're supposed to do when an earthquake occurs. Do we run outside? Do we stand in the doorway? Do we duck and hide? And it was, you know, it was an easy task to find out what the most correct procedure was and put that out there for them to give them what they needed to protect themselves in case of an earthquake. I seen something on the news the other day that Oklahoma has had like 300 earthquakes this year that were over 3 points on the Richter scale versus 90 for, you know, a decade before. So, I mean, it's starting to shake things up a little bit. We provide training. One of my biggest tasks when I first got here was my boss says, hey, we need to do training for 2,000 people. I'm not going to let you forget it, boss. 2,000 people, you're going to have 3 training sessions to do it. You got 2 weeks to get it done. Here you go. And I think it was quite successful. We got a lot of positive feedback. But providing that active shooter training, I'm going to talk a little bit more about active shooter here in a little bit because it's always high on everybody's mind. We do a lot of drills. We kind of coordinate the drills. Denise Seavers here, she's the drill master. She keeps them all straight as far as who's done what to make sure we're not only in compliance with state regulations, but to make sure that we're ready to go in case of an emergency. I have a lot of experience in training on the police department, and I'm here to tell you, I know for a fact that when something goes bad, we do how we were trained to do. So the whole idea is to be trained and ready to go if and when it should ever occur. We're moving into critical incident management. This is something I'm very excited about. This is a system that's used nationwide by police departments and fire departments, and it should be used by the school district as well. It's a system that's used that no matter what the crisis is, how big, how small, this system works. And more importantly, when the fire department shows up or the police department shows up, we're talking the same language. And we don't miss a beat as we go in to handle the situation. And then building security assessments is another thing that we're working in partnership with schools, again, like I said, seeking their input and seeing how we can strengthen the security of the school. We don't want schools to look like prisons. We don't want you to have to go in and get wanded with a metal detector like you do at the airport and that kind of stuff to get in to visit your kid in school. But at the same time, we want the school's securities to be at a level that everybody feels safe. We have partnerships with our students. We have daily contacts with our students, and we try to make those daily contacts very non-adversarial. Instead, we want them to be very supportive and responsive. Safety versus enforcement directed. If you haven't had a chance, I tell you, it's a pretty cool thing. It's to go out there and stand in one of those schools and stand next to one of those SROs as those kids are walking down the hallway. They know every one of those kids by name. And they don't just know their names. They're having conversations with them like, hey, have you got your new car yet? Hey, how's your dad like his new job? Hey, what was your score on this or this or this? And there's a real interaction there. And so that partnership's not just one way, because as we're giving them that kind of support, what we're getting in return is information. They're telling us, hey, you might want to be aware that so-and-so is being picked on, or you might want to be aware that it sounds like there's a couple groups that aren't getting along here you might want to be mindful of. So it's a two-way street there, but it's really amazing to watch, especially in light of what you see on the news and on TV about, everybody hating the police, and I know there's some of that going on, but boy, I haven't seen it in the schools with these officers. It seems like they get along great. We get to do kind of some special event things. This is some kind of fun stuff, some mentoring programs, small group career presentations. I got to go over to Liberty Academy the other day, and they brought in a bunch of people from the community and set them up in different rooms. And the students got to pick which rooms they went to, and you could hear about different careers and what led you to that career and the pros and cons of it. And I was asked to be in one of those rooms. I was surprised to be asked. I was even more surprised any kids showed up, but I actually had a full class both times, so it was a lot of fun. Even field trips. I have a group of kids that are interested in law enforcement, and I was asked if I could take them out to the new police academy over there on Shoal Creek to walk them around. We're doing that here in a week or two, which I think is going to be fun for me. I hope it's fun for them as well. We have partnerships with our parents. We're very interested in our parents' concerns. They give us information like bus stop activity. It's great when a parent calls us and says, hey, it's no big deal, but man, them kids out there on that bus stop, the horseplay, I think they're getting out in traffic. I'm a little concerned. That's the information I want to know. I can't monitor every bus stop every day. And we send security staff out there, again, in a very non-adversarial way. They chat with the kids, and it's been taken care of. Certainly, bullying is at the top of our list. We get that a couple ways. Sometimes the parent finds out about it, their child's the victim. But we've also had a couple times where parents have called and said, my kid's not involved in this, but they came home and told me of a situation that's going on, and we're able to stop it at that point. There's something about that bullying, if you're the victim, you just don't want to tell anybody, and so it helps us to get on top of it right away. We get a lot of the child custody stuff, as you can imagine, and so we take a very neutral stance on that and kind of go off what the court documents go, but that's a partnership that we have with parents. Certainly with drugs, sometimes they bring us information. Sometimes we are able to go out and tell them, hey, what's the newest thing on the market? You see those electronic cigarettes? A lot of times they look like an ink pen, and a kid can sit in class, there's almost no smoke, and look like he's tapping his teeth, and that can actually be one of those electronic cigarettes. But you can say, okay, a little nicotine. Well, the reality is there's a thing called oil, which is a marijuana derivative that they can put into that thing, and actually me sitting there getting high. I don't know that we've had that here. I know they've had some over at North Kansas City. So it's something that we're aware of. And just general information back and forth. That information sharing is so vitally important in that partnership with the parents. With the community, here's some of the things that we provide to you. And that is, we hope to be a very solid community partner. We don't want to be the neighbor that doesn't mow the grass and has a fence that's fallen down. We want to be the one that you can go to if you need to borrow a tool or go to in case there's an emergency. And we do that by being responsive. We want to be the good neighbors. We want to know your concerns. We want to help you with problems and be problem solvers. It doesn't mean that we're always going to agree or that we're going to solve it on the very first time. We may have to take 2 or 3 or 4 stabs at it, but it's been my experience, the more people we have around the table putting input and ideas into it, the better chance we have of coming up with a successful solution. We also want to be available. We have a hotline number here. You'll see it again at the end of the presentation, but if you don't want to talk to me direct and you just want to call in and not leave your name, you can always call the hotline number and leave that information. We've had a few of those this year already. So you're saying this is all the stuff that you do for me. What are you expecting for it? Well, I am expecting something for it, and that is I really want your eyes and your ears. You should never hesitate to report. You know, in every instance that there's been an active shooter that they went in and really looked at, which they always do, go in and look at the potential causes, there's always been opportunities for somebody, had they known, to step up and say something. I was just reading an article the other day where a lady was sitting in her house looking out her back kitchen window, and she saw a teenage boy walking through her backyard. And he wasn't walking like with his head down in a straight line like he had a purpose. And she first thought, why is this kid walking through my backyard? Apparently it had recently rained. He was walking right through the mud puddles instead of around the mud puddles. And he was heading to a storage facility that wasn't too far away. And she could have said, that's strange, and went back to watching Oprah or whatever she was watching. But instead, she picked up the phone and called and said, hey, called the police and said, I think this just seems odd to me. And the police went over to the storage shed, which happened to have the thing up. They went in to talk to the kid and seen that they were surrounded by explosives. And then he made it very clear. He wasn't bashful about it. Yeah, I was going to school to blow it up. I was going to blow everything up. His heroes were the guys from Sandy Hook and Columbine and all that, and he had all kinds of stuff in his room. There's been others that have been interviewed and said, if anybody would have just asked, I would have told them. Or some of them, the kids went and told other kids. Sometimes those kids come home and tell their parents and say, boy, there's an odd duck at school, and here's what he's saying. That's the information that we need. You know, there's a good chance that 99 times out of 100 it's nothing, but it bears checking out for that one time that it bears fruit. That lady picking up the phone probably saved 100 lives at least. So don't hesitate to call. Don't hesitate to follow up. You give us information, you know, don't hesitate to call back and say, what did you do with it? Where is it? In case you don't hear back. We're interested in your thoughts and suggestions. If you hear of a trend, you see something on Nightline, call and ask. Maybe I haven't heard it. I'll be glad to find out. I mean, information is key here. Potential solutions. I love it when somebody tells me how we can do something better, because you very well could be right. There's maybe times we agree to disagree, but most of the times we can find, say that's a good idea and we can move on with that. I want to talk a little bit about active shooters because it's all we hear about. We just had another incident the other day. I told you before that the odds are extremely unlikely that it's going to happen. You have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than you do to being involved in an active shooter situation. We all hear about every single incident throughout the entire nation, so we think it's a little more prevalent than what it is. But that said, we're going to be prepared for it should it happen. We don't want to scare people to death. I don't want kids to be frightened every time they walk into school. But we want to be prepared nonetheless. So like I said, we've done the active shooter training. We've done the drills. We will continue to do the drills to be prepared. We even look for ways to kind of mix that up a little bit on the drills. We do building assessments. I've even had one school that they went through our training and said it was a great training, but every one of our classrooms, the way the building is configured is so different, I don't think that'll work. And I said, well, let's go see. So we went out, and I literally went to every single classroom, met with every single teacher to talk about theirs, because every single classroom was different, to be honest, and said, let's walk through this. And when we left, they felt a lot better. They felt a lot confident because they felt like they had a plan. One of the things I'm kind of excited about is part of the master plan. We're reviewing all the building entrances for security. In my mind, the best entrance is where you walk in, you have to go into an office area and have to be buzzed back out of the office area. It's not great for the people working in the office, to be quite honest, but it gives you a really nice layer of security for the rest of the building, and that's kind of what we're looking to do. Some of our coming attractions in the security department is we're right now in the middle of a selection process for a visitor pass management system. I don't know if you've seen any of these before. It's pretty cool. I know we tested, I think, one last year up at Liberty North. But you come in to visit the school for whatever the reason, and you take your state ID and you stick it in this machine, and it prints you out a pass that has your picture on it. It can even tell us like you're going to lunchroom or you're going to go library to read to kids or wherever you're going. It's on there. It has the time that you're coming in there. Some Some other features is as soon as it runs your state ID, it does an automatic real-time background check to make sure you're not on a sexual offenders list of any type. We haven't selected which one we're going to go with yet, so there's various levels of these background checks that we can do when you slide your ID in there. The other thing it can do, it automatically will tell us if you are authorized to pick up that kid. Maybe if you're coming to pick up a kid, it'll say, no, 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 this guy's got an order of protection against him. He's not allowed to have the kid, or whatever. So it does a real good job of tracking that. It's a real easy, quick system. It's even quicker than signing in like you currently do. So we're really excited about that. We have reformed the safety committee, which is something that we had here some time ago, but it kind of went by the wayside, and we kind of jump-started that back to where we look at incidents that occur within the district and say, how could we do that different, or what policy or equipment changes could we make to make things safer? So we stay right on top of that. We're also bringing back the Safe Schools Committee. There is a large Safe School Committee that handles pretty much all the Northland, but we're doing one specific to Liberty as well. And that's where we bring in our other community partners, such as the police department, the fire department, the hospital, Northland Coalition members, and we meet probably on like about a quarterly basis to talk about issues that concern us all, and primarily this district, and how we can all work together to do a better job to make things safe. I'm reviewing and enhancing our critical incident procedures, and this is in accordance with FEMA and the Missouri One plan. Again, this is that critical incident management component that I'm a big, big believer in, and we're be pushing and developing that even more than it already has been developed around here, and pushing it out to everybody for training. And then obviously review and recommendations on the security staffing and deployment. We've already done some of that, where we've taken our people and kind of divided them up, divided the school district into two halves, and have somebody responsible for each half. It just gives a lot quicker response time, but we're going to do even more of that as we roll around. And with that, I told you it would be quick, and it was. Anybody have any questions of me? Sir? You know what? I think we're way ahead of the curve in a lot of areas. I came from Kansas City public schools. The buildings weren't nearly as ready as these buildings are, or as secure. And I will tell you, I've said this from almost day one that I've been here, and I don't mind repeating it, but the staff here far excels what I'm used to. I mean, not only is everybody very eager to help, I've not yet been told by anybody no on anything. But the level of awareness they have for security, and the eagerness they have to provide a safe security, because I've went out and met with every principal, well now more than once, but the one thing that kept them awake at night was, I have the responsibility of all these people. Well, that fear that they have comes from some, well, just genuine concern, but not having the confidence level if something bad happens. I don't want to make a mistake that's going to make it worse. I don't want to make a mistake that could be criticized later, or God forbid, make a mistake that somebody will be injured as a result of my decision. So part of my job is to get them that confidence level, and that comes through the training and having a plan that they can quickly plug into place. So I guess I'll be honest with you, nothing keeps me at night when I'm out. But the truth of the matter is, if I had any concern at all, is I'm anxious to get to the end. Not that there's ever really an end, but I want to get that training out there to where they walk around with a great deal of confidence. Denise has been working really hard with me on this, and we're really close to be rolling something out to senior management to say, hey, here's what our plan is, and I think everybody will it'll raise everybody's confidence level. Anything else? Well, thank you very much.
Let's express appreciation to Mr. Majors for his presentation this morning. We do appreciate him being part of this team, and it's been a busy first quarter, and look forward to the continued progress and work in this area in serving the students as well as the families of our district and our communities. One of the things that he mentioned was the value in partnerships in working in the area that we have as our district boundaries encompasses both Liberty and Kansas City. We do value those partnerships tremendously. And so again, as several of us have transitioned, realized that this was an area of focus, of importance, just as much as the work that we do in our classrooms, and making certain that our climate, our environment is safe and secure. So appreciate his work and the continued looking at it in terms of seeing areas that we can improve or grow in. With that said, thank you all for being here this morning. For those that will join us online in the future, we will have an additional Coffee with the Community and more to come this semester. But it's been a great start to the year. A couple of items to give you an update on. We actually just completed this morning a collective hour of code. And as you can imagine, trying to take grades K through 12, all of our students and all of our staff through this experience, we had some successes. We had as far as bandwidth and learning from that, but we really wanted to try to create a collective learning experience. And that's what we're about as adults, and certainly as our students, and trying to model that for them. Another couple of items, as we mentioned, the first quarter is wrapping up. This week is parent-teacher conferences, and so we're looking forward to the conversations of engaging families and parents in the learning of their children, and that's really what it's about. Not only what happens at school, but how our families can support their children in that learning journey. So with that said, would conclude our Coffee with the Community this morning. I want to thank our communications department for their efforts, and then open it up real quickly for a couple of questions that anyone may have of me. Any questions from the group that's here this morning? Okay. We will stick around to connect one-on-one if you have anything that you'd like to connect about. Otherwise, we'll see you at our next Coffee with the Community. Thank you.